The forest behind our house wasn't there yesterday. The first time I noticed it, I was brushing my teeth. It was early, just after 6, and the sun was barely cutting through the gray of morning. The window above the sink fogged up slightly with each breath I took. But something tugged at the edges of my vision. Something dark. Something green. I wiped the window with the back of my hand. And froze. Because there, standing tall where nothing but a fence and empty fields had always been, was a forest. A dense, towering stretch of trees, their canopies blotting out the rising sun, so thick it cast a shadow halfway into our backyard. It hadn't been there yesterday. I was sure of it. We'd lived in that house for over 4 years. And behind it, nothing but a gentle slope of dry, flat land leading down to the county road and the old drainage ditch where kids dumped stolen fireworks in the summer. We had no woods, no trees, not even a bush worth hiding behind. But now, there was a forest, and I couldn't stop staring at it. I called for my mom. She was already dressed for work, cup of coffee in hand, trying to convince my little brother Jonah to eat something that wasn't Pop-Tarts. "Mom," I said, pointing to the window. "What's that?" She glanced out and frowned. Paused. But only for a second. "Oh, must be some construction," she muttered, shrugging. "New development, maybe. I don't know, land grows stuff sometimes. Land doesn't grow a whole forest overnight." She didn't reply, just sipped her coffee and turned away, like she was trying very hard not to see it. By noon, I was still staring at it from the back porch. The trees swayed gently even though there was no wind. They looked too close together. Too dark. Not like the woods at summer camp or the thin tree lines near the park. These trees looked ancient. Black bark, knotted limbs. The kind of trees that watch you when your back is turned. Jonah came outside holding his bug-catching jar. He was 7, curious about everything, fearless about nothing. "I'm gonna look inside," he grinned, already walking toward the tree line. "No," I snapped. "Stay close to the house." "Why?" He blinked. "It's just trees." I didn't have an answer. Not one that made sense. But something inside me whispered, if he goes in, he won't come back out. That night, I kept waking up. First at 12:17 a.m., then again at 2:44. Each time I heard whispers. Not inside the house, outside. From the woods. Soft. Inhuman. Like leaves rubbing against teeth. At 3:33 a.m., I finally sat up and looked through the window. The trees were closer now. They had moved. Not by a lot. Just enough that the fence looked crooked, and the shadow from their canopy reached the tool shed. And between the trunks, I saw something standing there. Too tall. Too thin. Arms longer than they should have been. A face I couldn't fully see, just a smooth shape with no eyes. Watching. Waiting. The next morning, the forest was silent. No birds. No crickets. Not even a breeze. Just stillness. Jonah had already forgotten I told him to stay away. When I found him near the edge of the woods, he was holding something in his tiny hands. It looked like a doll made of twigs and rope. Its head was tied with string. It smelled like rotten smoke. "Where did you get that?" He grinned. "The trees gave it to me." "What trees?" "The ones that whisper," he said. "They said I could come visit." I grabbed the doll and threw it as far as I could. Jonah started crying. But I didn't care. Because now the voices weren't just whispering at night. They were whispering to him. I tried to show Mom the trees again that evening. She looked, frowned, and said flatly, "There's nothing there." "What do you mean?" "The whole forest is right." "There's nothing there, Emily," she said again, sharper this time. "Maybe you're spending too much time online. Take a break. Go draw or read or something." I turned back to the window. And for just a second, the forest was gone. It was just an empty stretch of land again. Until I blinked. And it was back. That night, Jonah wasn't in his bed. I searched the whole house. Found his bedroom window open. Dirt on the floor. A trail of muddy footprints leading out the back door. And toward the trees. I followed him. Barefoot. Shaking. The air near the forest felt colder. Wrong. Like I'd stepped into a different season. And even though the sun had barely set, it was already dark inside the forest. I called his name. Once. Twice. Then I heard it. Laughter. High-pitched. Echoing between trunks. It was Jonah's voice. But there was something off about it. Like it had been stretched too far. Like someone was trying to mimic how he sounded. I stepped deeper. Branches snapped underfoot. The trees closed in behind me. Everywhere I turned, the path twisted. And then, I saw him. standing between two black trees, smiling. But his eyes were too wide, his skin too pale, and his fingers were covered in bark. "Come see," he said softly. "There's more like me." Part 2. Jonah is not my brother anymore. I took a step back. Jonah was still standing between the trees, smiling. But it wasn't the kind of smile a 7-year-old gives you when he's happy. It was empty, stretched too wide, like it was glued onto his face. His arms hung limp at his sides. His eyes didn't blink. And that bark on his hands, it wasn't dirt. It was growing. "Jonah," I whispered, my throat dry. "Come home, please." He tilted his head. "The forest is home now," he said in a soft, eerie tone. "They showed me." The words came out like he'd rehearsed them. Flat, cold, foreign. Then he raised one of his hands and pointed behind me. I turned. The trees had closed in. The trail I thought I came down was gone. And now, behind every trunk, eyes, dozens of them, peeking from the dark, blinking sideways, wide and glassy, like the eyes of animals that never needed sunlight. Some too high off the ground, some too low, some not even in heads, just watching. The forest was alive, and it had noticed me. I ran. Branches clawed at my arms. Roots reached up, trying to trip me. I swear I heard the trees whispering in my ears, saying my name over and over in my brother's voice. "Emily, Emily, come back, see what I've become." I didn't stop until I broke through the tree line and collapsed into the backyard, my knees scraping the sharp gravel that lined the garden path. When I looked back, panting, crying, skin burning, the forest stood still, silent, and Jonah was gone. My mom didn't believe me. She barely looked up from the sink when I told her Jonah had walked into the woods. "What woods?" she asked. "There's nothing back there but open land, Emily. You're not a child anymore." Her voice sounded dull, robotic, like she was just repeating something. "Mom, I saw him. He's in there. There are things in there." The trees moved. They moved. She stared at me, then smiled. And that smile, it didn't touch her eyes. I went up to my room and locked the door. I could still feel it, the weight of that forest, like it had wrapped something around me. And worse, Jonah's voice didn't stop. That night, I heard him outside my window, whispering, singing a little song we used to hum in the car when we were bored. But it was slower now, out of rhythm, wrong. I pulled the covers over my head and cried until I passed out. The next morning, Jonah was sitting at the kitchen table, smiling, eating cereal, like nothing had happened, like he hadn't disappeared into an impossible forest and stared at me with bark growing from his skin. My mother poured him juice. "Morning, sweetheart," she said to him. He looked up at her and blinked, but not normally. He blinked sideways, a thin, clear film sliding over his eyes like the second lid on a reptile. I stood frozen. No one noticed. I pulled my mom aside. "That's not Jonah." She gave me a sharp look. "Don't be ridiculous. I saw him in the woods. He wasn't like that, his skin, his eyes. He's not right." She leaned closer, and for the first time I saw it. Her neck, just beneath her collar. A splinter, sticking out from under her skin. Not wood. Root. I stepped back. "No," I whispered. She smiled, tight-lipped, cold. "You should rest. You've been acting very strange lately." Then she turned back to Jonah, or the thing pretending to be him. That night, I heard the scratching. Not outside. Inside. Behind the walls. Above the ceiling. Under the floor. Like something was burrowing through the house. And then, Jonah knocked on my bedroom door. 3 taps. Then silence. "Emily," he called softly. I didn't answer. He knocked again. "Open the door. I want to show you what I learned in the forest." I pressed my back against the far wall. He knocked a 3rd time. And then, the doorknob began to twist. I sprinted for the closet and shut myself inside. Tried to keep my breathing quiet. I could hear him moving around the room, bare feet across the floorboards. The soft, sticky sound of something wet dragging behind him. He stopped in front of the closet. "Emily," he whispered, "you're going to love it. It doesn't hurt for long. They just need to grow through you first." His hand slapped the door once. Twice. Then everything went quiet. I don't remember falling asleep. But when I woke up, it was morning. And Jonah was gone. But on my nightstand, a gift. A small bundle of leaves and bone tied with red thread. Something inside it moved when I touched it. I didn't open it. I flushed it down the toilet and told myself it never happened. At school, no one noticed I looked like hell. But I started noticing them. The other kids. How some of them sat still for too long. How their smiles looked too wide. Too fixed. How 3 of them, always the same 3, stared out the window toward the woods during class. Not zoning out. Watching. Waiting. Like they were listening for something calling them back. That night, I set up my phone to record. I placed it by the window. Let it film overnight. I needed proof. Something to make it all real. I fell asleep around midnight. When I woke up, the phone was gone. I found it on the front lawn. Screen cracked. Covered in dirt. And when I opened the footage, it showed me. Standing outside. Just standing. Staring into the trees. My mouth moved, but no sound came out. And behind me, slowly, silently, the forest grew closer. Part 3. The trees are moving again. The video didn't lie. It showed me, sleepwalking, silent, standing at the edge of the backyard with my face turned toward the trees. I stood like that for 15 full minutes. Still. Unblinking. And the forest? It moved. Not like swaying branches in the wind. The trees shifted. Roots curled forward like they were crawling across the ground. One tree, taller than the rest, with peeling bark that looked like torn skin, leaned forward as if to whisper something into the back of my neck. Then the video cut out. Dead silence. Static. And then, just for 1 second, my face filled the screen. Smiling. Wide. Too wide. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the video again. My expression. My stillness. I kept thinking, what if I hadn't watched it? Would I still be me right now? And worse, what if I wasn't me already? The next morning, Jonah was humming. Not a song he made up. Not anything normal. It was rhythmic. Repetitive. Alien. He sat at the kitchen table, carving something into his cereal bowl with a spoon. At first I thought it was just lines, scratches. But then I realized it was trees. Tiny, jagged trees pressed into the plastic. And at the base of each one was a small circle, like an eye. "Jonah," I whispered, "what are you drawing?" He looked up at me slowly. "They're getting closer," he said, his voice flat. "They said they'll reach the house by Friday." "Who?" He smiled again. But this time, his gums were black. I skipped school and walked the whole town. Street by street. Block by block. I needed to know if anyone else could see the forest. Or if it was just us. But no matter who I asked, no matter how I phrased it, they all said the same thing. There's no forest back there. Some didn't even blink. Some smiled. Tight. Like they were pretending. And a few just stared through me like I hadn't spoken at all. At the edge of Main Street, I saw a woman with an old Polaroid camera sitting at a bench. Her sign said, "Photographs, $1, capture what's really there." She looked tired. Pale. Her eyes had dark rings like she hadn't slept in weeks. I gave her $1. "Take a picture of the woods behind my house," I said. "Please." She didn't ask why. Didn't speak. She just snapped the photo and handed it to me without a word. I shook it. Waited. And when the image came through, my breath stopped. Because the forest in the picture wasn't made of trees. It was made of people. Their arms stretched upward like branches. Eyes wide open. Mouth sewn shut with roots. And in the center was me. When I looked up, the woman was gone. Bench empty. Camera sitting there, broken in half. That night, I asked my mom if we could leave town. Just for a few days. She didn't even answer. She just stood at the sink, her back to me, washing the same plate over and over. The water had gone cold. The same bubbles drifted in the same circle, never popping. "Mom," I asked again. She turned. And I saw it. A twig, long and black, had grown out of her neck and curled into her ear like a listening horn. When she spoke, it wasn't her voice. It was Jonah's. "They won't let you leave, Emily." I ran to my room, locked the door, pushed my dresser against it, and turned on every light. The trees were closer now. I could see them through the glass. The fence behind our house was gone, swallowed up by thick roots and shadows. One tree, huge and bloated, was pressing against the side of the house, its bark stained with something dark and wet. The sky above them had gone gray. Not storm gray. Ash gray. And above the tallest tree, I saw something moving. A shape. Massive. With limbs like spider legs. Its head was made of antlers and smoke. I blinked. And it was gone. I pulled out every flashlight I had. Grabbed scissors. A bat. Salt. I didn't even know why. Just instinct. Then I heard the footsteps. coming from the hallway. Barefoot. Slow. And then scratching. Not at the door. From the walls. The roots were in the drywall now. Creaking, cracking, worming through like veins. And then I heard Jonah's voice. On the other side of the door. You don't have to be scared anymore, he whispered. It's better if you stop fighting. It's so nice when they sing. So warm. His voice deepened. Shifted. It wasn't just him speaking anymore. It was dozens. Hundreds. Whispering through the wood, through the wires, through me. Then boom. My bedroom window shattered. A long, black branch pierced through the curtains like a spear and scraped across the ceiling, carving symbols into the paint. The light bulbs burst. My flashlight flickered. And I felt it. A voice. Not heard. But planted. Deep inside my mind. A thought that wasn't mine. We are the forest. And you have always belonged to us. I blacked out. I don't know for how long. When I woke up, the room was still. The lights were dead. My phone was gone. And in the center of my floor was a hole. A tunnel. Dug through the boards, through the foundation, leading into the earth. I crawled toward it, heart pounding. From below, I heard them. Whispers. Laughter. Jonah. Calling my name. Emily, come down. Part 4. Beneath the roots, they are waiting. I should have run. I should have sealed the tunnel, boarded the hole, and never looked back. But something in me, not quite panic, not quite curiosity, something older, whispered, you've already begun the change. The hole in my floor gaped like an open wound. The edges weren't splintered, but smooth, like something had melted the wood away. A faint breeze curled out from the darkness below. It smelled of soil and rot, and something sweet, like dying flowers. I leaned closer, and then I heard it, my own voice, whispering from below. Come see, Emily. I don't remember crawling down. I just remember descending, hands against dirt walls, knees pressing into damp earth. The tunnel tightened as it curved downward in slow, spiral turns, like I was being pulled into a throat that had learned how to swallow. The deeper I went, the more I heard. Voices. Not angry. Not screaming. Welcoming. Like lullabies whispered through leaves. Like bedtime stories twisted just enough to make your skin crawl. Then the dirt gave way. And I fell. I landed in silence. A chamber. Circular. Hollowed out beneath the forest. The walls were thick with roots that pulsed faintly, as if a slow heartbeat moved through them. Above me, the ceiling shimmered like it was made of black glass. Trapped behind it, I could see faces. People I recognized. Neighbors. Kids from school. And in the center, my mom. Her expression was calm. Her eyes were shut, but her lips moved, repeating one word. Belong. 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 At the center of the chamber, something stirred. A tree, unlike the others. Gnarled and impossibly wide. Its trunk split open like a mouth, and from within a shape stepped forward. Not Jonah. Not quite. His face was familiar. But wrong. The bones too sharp. His smile sewn on with thread. Roots sprouted from his wrists and ankles like veins that had grown outside his skin. He reached for me. And behind him, dozens more began to emerge from the tree's hollow mouth. Children. Adults. All of them twisted. Their skin bark. Their eyes glassy. Their fingers sharp and blackened like ash. You're here, Jonah said. You finally heard them. I backed away. You're not my brother. He tilted his head. I'm more me than I've ever been. They showed me the truth. What truth? I whispered. He spread his arms wide. That everything grows. Even us. But we're not meant to grow apart from nature. We're meant to grow into it. Behind him, the others nodded. They've been waiting for you, Emily. For your choice. The roots have tasted your blood. You can still become. I turned to run. But there were no tunnels back up. Only roots. Tangled. Twisting. Alive. I clawed at them, but they slithered beneath my hands. Jonah approached slowly. You'll feel better once you let go. Once you stop resisting. Then you'll hear the real music. He placed a hand on my shoulder. It burned cold. And for just a second, I saw what he saw. The forest from above. Moving. Breathing. The houses were sinking into the soil. The people inside sleeping, unaware, until roots slid beneath their skin and wrapped around their hearts. They became still. Peaceful. Connected. I felt it. That pull. The offer of quiet. Of never being alone again. But something snapped in me. Some tiny sliver of will that hadn't rotted yet. I swung my arm. Hard. Knocked Jonah's hand away. He stumbled backward, surprised. I'm not yours, I spat. I'm not one of you. The figures around the chamber began to hiss. The tree at the center let out a low, groaning moan, deep and ancient and filled with hunger. Roots surged from the ground, grabbing my legs, wrapping my waist. I screamed. And I remembered. The salt. Still in my hoodie pocket. I grabbed the pouch and ripped it open. Threw it in every direction. The roots recoiled, shrieking. The walls trembled. Jonah's skin cracked, his smile vanished. He howled like an animal. You don't have to fight this. I scrambled up a side path as the chamber shook. The walls began to collapse. Roots flailed wildly, slicing the air. I climbed with every ounce of strength I had, tearing through layers of damp soil until daylight. I burst into the backyard, covered in dirt, bleeding, gasping. The forest was quiet, still, but now it surrounded the house on all sides. The world outside was gone. Inside, the house was empty, furniture overturned, every wall pulsing with the same roots I saw below. And then I saw the mirror. My reflection. I barely recognized myself. Mud-streaked, hair tangled. But my eyes, for just a second, they blinked sideways. Part 5. The forest doesn't let you leave. I stared at the mirror. The girl staring back had my face, my shape, my bruises, but her eyes were wrong. Not just tired. Not just afraid. They blinked sideways. Once. Twice. A clear membrane slid over them, like a lizard's. And in that moment I knew. It had begun. Something from the forest had found a way inside me. I wanted to scream. To claw at my skin. To tear whatever it was out of me. But when I opened my mouth, no sound came out. Only a faint rustling, like dry leaves shifting in a hollow wind. The house was silent. No sign of Mom. No sign of Jonah. No furniture in its proper place. The hallway lights flickered as I walked. Roots snaked across the ceilings and floors, curling around photos on the walls. Photos that no longer showed faces. Only trees. Where my family should have been, there were just forests. Endless. Blurred. Growing out of the frames. I needed to get out. Out of the house. Out of the town. Somewhere, anywhere without trees. I grabbed my backpack. Stuffed it with flashlights, salt, batteries, my broken phone, and a knife from the kitchen. I didn't know if any of it would help, but it made me feel human. Anchored. I made it to the front porch. And froze. Because our street? Gone. In its place, rows and rows of trees. Our neighbors' houses had vanished beneath twisted vines and towers of blackened bark. Their mailboxes now hung from branches like broken jaws. The pavement was cracked with moss and creeping weeds. The forest had swallowed the world. I ran. Through the yard. Over the fence. Into the one direction that still had open space. But the deeper I went, the more I realized. The forest wasn't surrounding me. It was leading me. The path beneath my feet twisted with intention. Every tree leaned slightly, guiding me. And worse, they whispered. Not words. Memories. I passed a clearing where the dirt held shapes. Outlines of people curled in fetal positions, like they'd been planted. I saw my third-grade teacher kneeling in the brush, her body hollowed like bark, her eyes filled with sap. I found my best friend's bike. The wheels melted into the roots of a tree with a mouth carved down its trunk. And above it all, that same hum. The forest singing. Like a mother to her child. By nightfall, I reached a hill. The tallest one I'd ever seen. Its peak shimmered with a sick green glow. I climbed breath-ragged, skin-torn. At the top stood a tree so large it blotted out the moon. Its trunk pulsed like a heartbeat. Its branches stretched in every direction like veins across the sky. And beneath it a door. Wooden. Crooked. Covered in thousands of tiny handprints. It swung open on its own. Inside, the heart. A cavernous space that pulsed with light and life. In the center stood her. The queen of the forest. Her body was a fusion of roots and bone. Her crown was made of human teeth woven into branches. Her eyes? Bottomless wells that showed every person who had ever walked inside her woods. She didn't move. She didn't speak. But I heard her. Inside my skull. You have walked far. You are ready to belong. You've always belonged. Stop running. Join the root. Join the song. I collapsed to my knees. Not in fear. In submission. Because somewhere deep down, I wanted it to end. The terror. The loneliness. The noise in my head. The forest offered something else. Quiet. Purpose. Unity. But just before I let go, I remembered Jonah's face. Before all this. When he was still a kid. Still mine. When he got stung by a bee and cried until I made him laugh with a stupid dance. When we played flashlight tag under the blankets. When we fought over cereal and made up 5 minutes later. That Jonah. Not the thing pretending to wear his skin. I stood, shaking, crying, and I screamed, not with my throat, but with everything left in me. You can't have me. The queen blinked and screamed back. 1,000 voices. All at once. Every tree shuddered. The ground cracked. The roots lashed out, grabbing my arms, legs, neck. I reached into my bag, pulled the kitchen knife, and drove it through the nearest root. It shrieked and recoiled. The cavern trembled. Light exploded. I ran. I don't remember how I got out. Only that when I opened my eyes again, I was lying in my backyard. The grass scorched. The sky gray. The trees frozen. Still. Like statues. The forest wasn't gone. But it had retreated. For now. Jonah never came back. Neither did Mom. I buried the knife in the ground and salted every inch of the backyard. Every night, I still hear the forest. Whispering my name. But I don't answer anymore. Because I know. The forest doesn't let you leave. Not really. It just waits until you forget. Until you're tired. Until you're alone again. And then, it starts to grow.